Welcome, everybody. Thanks for attending my session today entitled Drive More Profit from Your Inventory. So that's going to be the focus of our attention. This will be very fast paced and hopefully be informative for you as well. My name is Russ Groff, and I'm the Vice President of Channel Management for NETSTOCK. And NETSTOCK is the publisher and author of the Sage Inventory Advisor application. You may hear me use those terms interchangeably between Sage Inventory Advisor or SIA and NETSTOCK, but identical functionality. You may have seen me around at other conferences. I've been with NETSTOCK now for 7 years and have had a great affiliation with SWK. Really appreciate the opportunity to present to you again here today at the Empower Conference. Been in this space a long time. I've earned every one of these gray hairs that you see. 25 plus years in the channel itself as a reseller and business partner, implementing applications like Sage 100. And for the last 10 years now, I've been on the ISV side of the fence, 7 years now with NETSTOCK, focused on inventory topics and demand planning and supply chain, et cetera. So let's talk about how businesses manage inventory in their organizations today. Obviously, you all have a great ERP and accounting software application. Sage 100 is very mature, very solid, very good depth of functionality, a lot of capability there. And does an outstanding job of capturing all the transactions and data necessary to help us manage this aspect of the business. But we also see Excel spreadsheets commonly in use, and we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. And there are third-party add-ons that are deployed, right? There's a great ecosystem of ISV applications and third-party apps that surround the Sage 100 application. So tools like warehouse management applications, shipping automation, EDI and e-commerce applications, et cetera. And of course, Sage Inventory Advisor fits into that realm and with its focus. And let's talk a little bit about that because just to create some context here, there is a difference between inventory control and inventory replenishment. And sometimes we hear that phrase inventory management. And really what our minds turn to is what I would call one aspect of that, which is inventory control. Right? You've got to understand what product you have and where it's located, what the quantities are, and the better that information is, the better you can run your organization. You've got to understand all the transaction flows and so forth, which again, Sage does a great job of capturing all that data. And then again, you may see a third-party application that deploys barcodes and handheld devices and so forth to, on a very accurately and timely basis, capture that data. So now I know what I have, but it's not the whole picture. It doesn't tell you if it's the right stuff, right? Do I have the right product at the right place at the right time? And that's really the flip side of the coin in what I would call the inventory management environment. It's inventory replenishment. Sometimes you may hear it referred to as inventory optimization, demand planning, forecasting, terms like that to describe this piece of the puzzle in terms of inventory management. And so that's the area that Sage Inventory Advisor focuses on, is it brings to bear some forecasting and order functionality to help you really understand how do I get the right product at the right place at the right time. And that's a challenge. It's always been a challenge for any inventory-based business, whether you're in manufacturing, distribution, retailing, or e-tailing, or some combination of all those. If your business is about inventory, buying and selling, and manufacturing, producing, packaging, inventory products, then you know this problem very well. The challenge is always having enough, but not too much. How do I know that I have enough to meet the demand of my customers, or perhaps of my production processes, without having too much inventory? There are downsides to both of those occasions, right? If I run out, obviously that's the worst thing that can happen. I could potentially lose not just a sale, but potentially a customer. So that's something that obviously needs to be avoided at all costs, but not at the expense of overbuying. I can't solve that problem by simply overstocking, having my warehouses overflowing with product, and essentially gathering dust and tying up working capital. Think of $1,000 bills stacked up in your warehouse, gathering dust when it could be doing better things for your organization. So there's the issue of the cash flow and tying up that working capital, as well as hard carrying costs associated with that excess inventory. So that's also a very negative environment, and will certainly absorb all of your profit from that product. So, and then the third issue, the challenge for the buyers and planners in the organization that have to manage these two competing interests of having enough but not too much, is that they have to be given the proper tools, and they've got a lot to do. It's a very stressful situation. They're getting yelled at by the sales team when they run out of product. They're getting yelled at by the accounting and financial folks for having too much inventory on the balance sheet and maybe given some arbitrary, you've got to reduce this by 10% or 20% by some deadline. So it's a very difficult, stressful position. And they find themselves spending all their time or most of their time just kind of putting out fires, doing, emergency tactics, messing with spreadsheets and formulas and running reports and running through the warehouse, instead of doing some of the higher level, higher value sorts of things that they could be doing, especially in today's COVID-driven supply chain world where everything's out of whack. It takes a lot of time and attention just to keep track of what's going on in the volatile markets that we exist in today. So you could spend your time working with your suppliers, maybe identifying alternate suppliers, maybe tweaking your transportation processes. Those costs have gone skyrocketed and become very difficult to manage. So there's so many other better things that those folks could be doing than messing with spreadsheets and formulas that don't work, and so forth, and putting out those fires and being stressed. So again, to go back to those technology tools that our businesses are using, again, the ERP accounting software is a great source of data, does an outstanding job of grabbing the transactions and accounting for those and storing those in a very organized, formal fashion. And they do provide some good basic inventory tools, right? You've got reorder reports, you've got fields of data that are capturing things like economic order quantities and mins and maxes and so forth. So a decent basic foundation. Where we see the spreadsheets come into play, though, is that it tends to be extremely manual. We're dumping data into those spreadsheets to try to run other formulas and do other analytics. And that's where most businesses are today, is they're trying to take all that raw data from the inventory tables and order tables and so forth within the ERP, and then doing some additional manipulation of that data. Very difficult to do. And then again, we see third-party add-ons, a product like Sage Inventory Advisor that's purpose-built just for this function, right? Already has the data extraction utilities built in. Grab the data, do the analytics, and present it to you in actionable information, ready to do the work that you need to do. We know for sure that the spreadsheets are the wrong tool, right? This is typically what we're replacing when we deploy Sage Inventory Advisor, and for a number of reasons. First of all, there's a data accuracy and synchronization problem. We've got all this data in maybe 10, 12, 15 different disparate tables and files within the ERP environment, and we've got to grab those all at the same time. If not, we've got data that's out of sync from one to the next, right? I can bring an inventory table in, and if I don't bring the purchase order tables in for another hour, those are going to be out of whack because I've still got business that I'm transacting, right? Those things are not static. In fact, they change by the second or the minute. So we've got a real challenge just being able to get data out on a timely, accurate basis. But then we also have the issue of just data control. Who in the organization is in charge of these items? Is there one person that does this process? Is there one person that understands the Sage, rather the spreadsheet formulas, where all this data is going and the analytics are taking place? And then the reality is there's just not enough data in the ERP to cover that. You've got to build your own, you've got additional inputs, and it's an ever-changing environment. Just many complications, bills of materials, multiple warehouses, creating new SKUs all the time, new processes in the warehouse. So it's really difficult. It's really never going to get you to a best practices type of environment. But this is unfortunately is where most companies are. It's a step up perhaps from where they were. And we sometimes talk about where you lay on the maturity curve, if you will, in terms of your supply planning and forecasting processes. So it may be a step forward, but it's not going to take you to the ultimate step of best practices. And we've got, series of blog posts and entire webinars that we do just on the topic of spreadsheets. And we know it's not right because we still have the problems, right? We still have products that are stocking out. We still have other products that are in excess, and we still have the productivity challenge of our buyers and planners trying to manage this process internally and killing a lot of time in doing so and being highly stressed. So we're going through all that effort and still not solving the problem. So, and really what it comes down to is buying smarter, right? What the whole point is here is to be able to know when to buy and how much to buy based on all the different factors that are at work, such as supplier performance, what my demand profile looks like, lead times that I need to manage, and all those different aspects of the supply chain that all come together to really produce what is hopefully the ideal order. Because if I'm ordering smarter, I'm going to have the right levels. I'm going to have the right product coming in at the right time. And I don't have to worry about the stockouts and the excess, except in some very extreme examples where there was just no way you could anticipate and prevent that problem from occurring. So instead, a tool that's really giving you better visibility, giving you dynamic analysis, right? Dynamic safety stock, dynamic and ever-changing mins and maxes, so that you're staying on top of that through the use of great forecasting algorithms, and ability to make adjustments to those forecasts over time as you see how they're performing, and then automatically syncing that data with the ERP all the way to creating the purchase order back in the ERP. So you'll know you found the right tool because it solves all those areas when you have it. Even if all those things are covered, it still might not be the right tool for you if it's too difficult to implement, right? It's too challenging or it's too expensive, and it just doesn't make sense for your organization. Or there's a change management factor here as well, right? If your team doesn't agree to use it fully, if there's not a top-down endorsement from the executive level and a bottom-up adoption of the application and really giving it a good run, then it's still not going to work for you, even though it may be the right tool. And so change management is a challenge. And in your case, all the audience here, you've got a great advisor in SWK, right? Those consultants know your business. They've been with you for a long time. They are a trusted advisor for you. You can leverage them in that role as you roll out this new application. And so the NETSTOCK or Sage Inventory Advisor approach was to build a cloud-based application built in the cloud for the cloud, browser-based, so it's available anytime, anywhere, and take all the decades of experience that our team had prior to building this application in demand planning and supply chain management, and really gear it towards the small, medium-sized business, build it with that in mind, with that target market, and design it to help you optimize your inventory and therefore drive more profit from your warehouse. So that's what we did. We built and delivered this application now over 10 years ago and continually tweak it and enhance it and improve it over those years. And so cloud-based, on-demand application, browser-based, integrates automatically with Sage, and takes all that raw data and creates this actionable information on a dashboard that's graphical, colorful, very intuitive and interactive, lots of visual cues, and really promotes a management by exception type of approach, which really is the best practices model, right? Where you have the ability to say, here are the items that are causing the most pain. I don't have time to spend all day on working on 20 or 50 or 100 or 1,000 SKUs, however many SKUs you may have in your inventory. You really need to focus on the items that are going to make the most difference in that profit picture for you. And again, because it's cloud-based, deployed rapidly from a remote perspective, we're not coming on site, and very affordable subscription pricing. So in the interest of time today, just give you a quick glimpse of some of the screens in the application. This is the dashboard that I referenced. Again, you can see a very consistent interface for all these different KPIs, the ways that we can check the health of your inventory. And so we can look at key performance indicators, key areas where I have too much, where I'm already stocked out or about to stock out, target fill rates, how am I performing? Lots of colorful coded visual cues there that allow me to understand exactly what's going on at a glance. And part of that color coding is coming from the way that we classify our items. So we're going to look at an ABC analysis, ranking items by their value, but also ranking them by their speed of movement. And that really helps me understand the nature of the items that I'm managing, the characteristics of those items, and I can really focus my attention as a result on the most important items that are driving the most profit for me. And those would be the color-coded green items here, which then show up on the dashboard. Quick glimpse here of what our forecasting screen looks like. This is from a bottom-up perspective, looking at a particular SKU. We also obviously can do top-down forecasting by groupings of items, whether it's by supplier or product line or user-defined fields. And so the ability to let the algorithms generate a future demand based on past performance, but also allow you to amend that forecast based on any new tribal knowledge you may have. And then the final thing is then the net result is, how do I create a perfect purchase order And so we lay it all out for you, put it right at your fingertips as the planner or buyer, and let you make those decisions, see what the recommendations are, and either agree or override those, but give you all the data at your fingertips to be able to make those decisions. So with that, I'll wrap it up. I'll be available live for answering any questions for you. Love to chat with you further. There's my contact information, some websites that you can go to. And again, thanks so much to SWK for allowing us to position ourselves here at the Empower Conference this year. Thank you very much.